It doesn't matter if you're a new player or a veteran. Teresse is a powerhouse support that more or less power creeps nearly all supports that came before her. Here's how she works. She provides the entire team a buff regardless of her placement. As long as the chain of the target is 5 or less, the damage is multiplied. That's it. It's that cut and dry. At +5 and at fully unlocked potential, she gets a ×3 multiplier. This is astronomical and fits very well with the universal application of her medical club costume. So the only drawback is the chain has to be 5 or less. So this puts her in direct competition with high chain stackers like Celia and Zenith. Using Levia is also going to be a little rough if you don't have a unit like Last Hope Lowen to put everything in one hit. That said, it can't be understated how powerful Teresse's buff is, even if you don't build a team around her. A pretty scuffed team would be Idle Helena, Elpis, Teresse, Levia, and Summer Dalvi. Out of 4 hits from Dalvi, only 1 is getting Teresse's buff. And maybe at that point you can argue replacing Teresse with Diana would be better. But Levia's damage is getting buffed, and she does surprisingly high damage for a debuffer. So even in this case, Teresse's buff is still being utilized to great work. An ideal team for Teresse would be something like Aranis, Diana, Teresse, Gamer Rafina, and Sacred Justia. This is a team that sets up a big nuke. If you don't have elemental advantage, you replace Diana with Homunculus Lawful. If you need a better position, you can use a knockback unit or use Zenith to put on Concentrated Fire. If permitted, you can also settle for a 2-turn clear. So you can use the first turn to set up. You can use your first turn to apply all the debuffs, and then the second turn to burst while everything is at 0 chains. So despite the limiter, there's plenty of ways to use Teresse. In terms of buffers, she's pretty much up there with Diana. At maximum power, Diana provides a 220% increase of property damage and 30% crit rate. While this is higher than Teresse's 200% damage increase, Diana's damage increase only applies when you have an elemental advantage. It's arguable who has more application, but for newer players like myself, Teresse is easily more useful because we don't have the roster to have elements in all cases. If you have all of your damaged units built and can cover all the elements, I'd say their application is about equal. Teresse's main disadvantage is Fiend Hunt, which is often pretty reliant on stacking high chains. But with bosses like Giant Row penalizing you for stacking chains past a certain point, Teresse would undoubtedly be useful. Teresse also has Diana beat in Tower of Wrath and Tower of Jealousy, since the enemies there do not have an element type. PvP is pretty interesting. Teresse's SP cost of 2 makes her viable for offensive PvP, and if you have her Medical Club costume well built, she can also buff and heal on her second turn. Considering how much of a damage multiplier she is for just existing, I can see her being a viable alternative to Helena. The main problem is you would not have the crit rate to make your wins consistent, which means you have to adjust your PvP equipment. Defensive PvP is harder to gauge since I'm pretty bad at making teams for that, but at first glance, Teresse's incredible bulk makes her a great unit to use on defense. Upon closer inspection, yeah, that is basically right. She's no Grand Hilder, but no one is. As for dupe points, anything less than +3 is a horrible idea. +3 gives you full uptime on Teresse's buff, and allows you to cycle through all 3 of her costumes before you had to apply the buff again. Since she is a limited costume, I strongly suggest getting her to +5. She is a legitimate alternative to Diana, and this costume completes her weird kit of having 2 offensive buffs and SP regeneration. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe.